creating of the orgs, or it's not exactly creating, it is defining or associating existing legal entity as the intercompany or classifying them as the intercompany org. So you need to go to this particular navigation, AGIS intercompany supervisor Reliance. AGIS intercompany supervisor Reliance. Okay. Setup organization. So when I click on this, it will try to open all these menus. When you try to click on that, it will take you to the web page. Setup organization. So we want to first create the Reliance Telecom or classify the Reliance Telecom and Reliance Oil and Gas as the intercompany organization. So you should not create them. Okay, there is a button called create, but you should not actually create them. There is a tip here said to prevent identical organizations, search for existing organizations. So you should always search for your legal entity, click on go, and then you need to change the classification as the intercompany classification. Okay. So first thing is Reliance Telecom.
So Arvind, then can you create an organization, rather a legal entity from here also?
No. So this is basically trying to create the AGIS intercompany org. But ideally, I don't see any practical scenario wherein you want to use this particular create organization button. Okay. The reason being, okay, first you need to have the legal entity. Only once the legal entity is created, you need to like classify that particular legal entity as the intercompany org. So during our implementation, I think one of the user has made that particular mistake. Instead of searching for the existing legal entity, he tried to create. So take an example. In my case, my legal entity is Reliance Telecom. Okay. So ideally, what I should do first, I need to search for this and then change the classification to the intercompany classification as yes, so that that particular Reliance in Telecom will become the AGIS intercompany org, so that you can use it in a data entry. But instead of doing that, if you click on say create organization, okay, and try to create that intercompany org, what will happen is if you go to the data entry, in the data entry screen, you will be able to see two Reliance Telecom. One is the actual Reliance Telecom, which is related, which is the ideally, which is first defined as the legal entity, and we have classified as the intercompany org. And second one is the another Reliance Telecom intercompany org. Okay.
Okay.
So clearly it says that to prevent identical organizations, search for the existing organization. So search for the existing legal entities. Okay. I had already changed the classification. So for as soon as you click on go, select this, click on update, and here you need to by default the enabled value is no. You need to just say it as yes and associate the corresponding operating unit of this particular legal entity. So in this example, for Reliance Telecom, the operating unit is Reliance Telecom. That's the same name which I had given for the operating unit, and click on finish. So once you click on finish, automatically you will be able to see the intercompany classification as yes. Okay.
And this has to be done for each legal entity and each operating unit, right? I mean, under each legal entity for each operating unit.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that is Reliance Telecom, and other one is Reliance Oil and Gas. Okay. Even for the Reliance oil and gas also, click on update and assign the change the enabled flag from no to yes, associate the corresponding operating unit and click on finish. Okay, that's the first step. And the second step is creating something called intercompany accounts. This we have already defined during GL, but I'll also show you that same thing once again from the AGI screen also. And before I get into this intercompany accounts, which is nothing but your intercompany receivables and intercompany payables, first you need to understand how the AGS accounting entry gets generated. Then you will understand what is this intercompany receivables and intercompany payables. Okay. Okay, as I said that in AGS there are two parties. One is called initiator and other one is called recipient. Okay, so in this example, Reliance Telecom is the initiator. Reliance Oil and Gas is the recipient. Initiator is the person who is selling the goods or services, and recipient is the person who is receiving the goods and services. So as I said that in under Reliance Telecom, which is an initiator, it is selling the goods and services to Reliance Oil and Gas. So under Reliance Telecom, it will be an AP invoice or AR invoice?
AR invoice.
AR invoice. And under Reliance Oil and Gas, it will be AP invoice, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm saying that under Reliance Telecom, I'll be creating an AR invoice and send that particular copy of invoice to Reliance Oil and Gas to get the money. Okay. If that is the case, when I'm creating an AR invoice, what is the first thing? I need to have a customer, right? And who will be the customer in this example?
Reliance Oil and Gas.
Exactly. So Reliance Oil and Gas, the legal entity needs to be created as a customer in AR invoice. So when you create your AR invoice, you need to create Reliance Oil and Gas as the customer, and then you need to, then only system will be able to generate the AR invoice. Similarly, in AP invoice, who is the vendor?
Reliance Telecom.
Exactly. So Reliance Telecom needs to be created as a vendor under AP invoice. Then only system will be able to create the corresponding AP invoice. And if this customer or AP like vendor relationships are not set up or like those are not created, then obviously system will not be able to create the corresponding AR and AP invoice, and there will be an errors when you run those transfer programs. Okay. And now coming to the accounting entry. In general, whenever an AR invoice is created, what is the accounting entry?
Receivable account will debit
Uh-huh. And what
and
will be
revenue account will be
receivable account will be debited and revenue account will be credited. Okay. When an AP invoice is created, what is the accounting entry?
expense account will be debit,
Mm-hmm.
liability account will credit.
Cash
Liability account or sorry, it's a liability account, not a cash account. Okay. Liability account, or it is also called as the payables account. Now, some people use the word
Okay.
accounts payable account. Okay. Now taking the intercompany process into picture, this is called intercompany receivables. Okay, and this will be called intercompany payables. So it's the same accounting entry. Okay, but what you will do is, instead of using the normal liability account, you use normal payable account, you use something called intercompany payables account. And here, instead of using a normal receivable account, there will be a separate national account for this. So you'll be using something called intercompany receivable account. Okay, so it's again same accounting entry. Once an AR invoice is created, this will be the accounting entry which you can see. Once an AP invoice is created, this is the accounting entry which you will be able to see. But instead of using the normal payables and normal receivables, we have some setups wherein we use something called intercompany receivable account and intercompany payable account. Okay, so from a data entry perspective, when user is creating an AGIS entry, once I get in the AGIS screen, you will understand. He'll be entering only this part under AR, and he'll be entering only this part under AP. If you remember, in AP, when you're creating a invoice, you have entered only this, and once you do a create account, the system has picked up this particular account from where? From where exactly your payable or liability account is uh, derived in?
Financial options.
Well, it
Payable
Payable options.
no, it's financial options fine, but like you should not say financial options, because from financial options it defaults to
Supply side.
yeah. So you should say it's
Yeah.
from the supplier side, and from supplier side it comes to your AP invoice. So this particular payable or liability account is derived by the system from the supplier side. User is entering only this one. Okay, and AR works in a different way. In AR, both your receivable and revenue both are derived using your auto accounting. Okay, so but in AGIS, when the user is doing a data entry, he'll be entering only this part and this part, and these two are directly derived by the system. Intercompany payables and intercompany receivables are derived by the system. So from where exactly system derives this intercompany payables and intercompany receivables? This is based on this particular setup. Okay, so the navigation is setup, accounting, intercompany accounts, create accounts. setup, accounting, intercompany accounts. Okay, something called create accounts. You need to click on create accounts and you need to start doing that. But as I had already created this intercompany accounting as part of my ledger setup, okay, I need to query for that. Reliance Telecom is the legal entity. Reliance Telecom. Transacting legal entity, Reliance Telecom, and transacting ledger is nothing but the ledger under which your Reliance Telecom falls. It falls under Reliance USD. Click on go. Okay, so these are all created. Click on update. Again, click on update. This is where you specify your intercompany receivables and intercompany payable account. So 1810 is the intercompany receivable account and 2370 is the intercompany payable account. If you remember the same setup, which we can do it in the GL in the ledger setup. I'll also show you under the ledger setup, which is ledger setup is nothing but under Reliance USD ledger. I'll also show you that. Go to General Ledger Supervisor Reliance USD accounting setup manager, which is setup financials accounting setup manager accounting setup. Reliance USD ledger. Okay, intercompany accounts. Reliance Telecom. So for the Reliance Telecom, click on Reliance Telecom, define relationship. So you can see the same screen, all other, define accounts. Okay, intercompany receivable account and intercompany payable account. So this can be done both in AGIS as well as GL, or like when I say both, like it can be done either in AGIS or GL. As we have already done that in GL, I did not again redo that in AGIS, but I just included the particular step in the BR100. Okay. So do you remember like why we were using all other? That is when your Reliance Telecom is actually performing an intercompany transaction with any of the other entities. We are using just the single intercompany receivable account and intercompany payable account. So transacting balancing segment is nothing but the company code within your legal entity. So under Reliance Telecom, when it is actually transacting Reliance Telecom 04 is the company code now. So if there are multiple company codes under Reliance Telecom also, okay, any of those company codes can interact with any of the other legal entities. You want to use only one rule. If you want to use multiple rows, then you need to add appropriately the lines. Like instead of transacting balancing segment as all other, you can use 04 there and then continue here. And then if there is some other company code under Reliance Telecom, say 010, and then come and continue and so on. So, but if you go with this particular option, you need not do that multiple rules. You can just create only one rule, all other. When I say all other, all. Okay, so that's the naming convention. So when you include all other, so all the company codes, okay, of a particular legal entity can transact with the all company codes of all other ledgers. Click on define accounts and then you specify your intercompany receivables and intercompany payable accounts. Okay, similarly you need to set that rule for the Reliance oil and gas also. Click on define relationship. It's the same all other define accounts. Okay, the enter account code combination, again it's the same intercompany receivable account and intercompany payable account. It's just that the company code you have used 03 for the Reliance oil and gas and 04 for the Reliance Telecom. So you can do that under GL or AGIS. Setup, accounting, intercompany accounts, create accounts. This is where you were doing. If those are not set up in GL, and if you want to do it in AGS, so this is what you need to do. Click on intercompany accounts, create accounts, and then follow the prompts there and This particular navigation is clearly explained in this particular BR100. Note the above.
Arvind, just a question. In general, right, for any individual legal entity, the natural account for intercompany receivable or payable would be different, right?
No, it will be same.
But in
National account
general,
will be, in general, national account will be same. So take an example in AP. Do you use separate liability account for each of the supplier, or you use the same liability account?
same only.
Okay. In AR, do you use separate receivable account for each customer or same? It will be same, right? Similarly, the national
Yeah.
account will be same. Okay. You can use the same national account under any company codes. The national account is same because, okay, you want to have only one, say, if you, whenever you are running a report for the, for the balance under, say, intercompany receivables or intercompany payables or some other balance, the national account should be same. Okay. But there will be different company codes as far as segment 1 is concerned.
Okay. Okay. So when you extract the report, we have to concentrate on the segment level to give the correct balance information,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Okay.
And one more point. So as you have seen the intercompany definition there. So in the intercompany definition, so this is what we have mentioned as intercompany receivable and intercompany payable. Okay. So the accounting entry, if you remember, out of our six segments, first segment is company code, second is cost center or department, third is national account, fourth is sub account, fifth is product, and sixth is intercompany segment. If you remember, we have created this particular segment, but we never use that particular intercompany segment. Now that particular intercompany segment will come into picture from an AGIS perspective. How system will derive this particular intercompany segment? Okay, in this example, what is the company code of Reliance Telecom? 03. Reliance Oil and Gas is 04. Telecom is 04, oil and gas is 03. Okay, telecom is 04, oil and gas is 03. Okay, so as far as the intercompany receivable account, intercompany payable is concerned, okay, as I said, the system is going to derive this from the intercompany receivables and intercompany payable account. Okay, so the general entry here would be intercompany receivable account debit. Okay, and some revenue account code combination, which will be 0400, some 500, something like that. $100, or yeah. Similarly, for the expense account, it will be 03, some expense account which will be debit, and intercompany payables account will be created. What is intercompany payables account? This is the intercompany payables. Okay, so in general, this is the accounting entry. But now, what in the case of intercompany transaction, what system does is, this is the intercompany receivables and this is the intercompany payables. Okay, what it does is, it is going to populate the intercompany segment depending on the transaction. In this case, the general entry, this general entry is under Reliance Telecom and this general entry is under Reliance Oil and Gas. So here, system is going to populate with 03. Here system is going to populate the intercompany segment with 04. Because this is an intercompany transaction between Reliance Telecom and Reliance Oil and Gas, system understand that this particular initiating party is transacting with this particular recipient party, and hence it is going to automatically populate this intercompany segment with 03. Similarly, here it is going to automatically populate the intercompany segment with 04. So had this been something, some other company, say Reliance Software example, Reliance Software is say 05. If it is 05, then automatically this will be populated with 05. or let us assume this is some other company code which is a some other Reliance retail which is a 010. If there is another Reliance retail legal entity which is defined in the system, and then this will be something like 010. Okay, so the reason why this intercompany segment is populated is, okay, looking at this particular account code combination, when you run some reports, you understand that yes, there is an intercompany receivable of $100. So when you say intercompany receivable, that itself says that I am ready to receive something. Intercompany receivable is nothing but you need to receive something, and it's an intercompany receivable. So the name itself says you need to receive something from some other internal company or some other internal legal entity. And what is that internal legal entity? That is 03. So looking at this particular account code combination itself, you will understand that yes, there is $100 due from 03 company. And even in this case, intercompany payables, looking at this particular company code, you understand that yes, 03 company needs to pay $100 for 04 company code. Okay, and these are called intercompany receivables and intercompany payables. And there is something, some functional, we'll not get into that, but there is something called elimination process. Whenever you consolidate this particular all the data from all the legal entities or all the ledgers into a consolidated ledger, you do something called elimination process for these kind of intercompany receivables and intercompany payables. So at the end of the day, when you actually look at this particular financials in the consolidated ledger, whatever is there balance under your intercompany receivable, there should be a corresponding balance under your intercompany payable. If that is not the case, then somewhere there is some system issue or somewhere some user issue or something like that. Okay, always your intercompany receivable should be matching with your corresponding intercompany payables. Okay.
Yeah. Arvind, one more question. From the accounting flex field definition perspective, right? Both segment 1, which is the company code, and the intercompany segment has the same
Value
features.
set. Yes. Ideally, you need to use the same value set. Yes.
Okay.
I have never seen any
Okay.
client who is using a different value set, but if you use a different value set, then somewhere there could be some kind of a data corruption somewhere down the line, or there could be some practical challenges. Always ensure that your intercompany, because see, both your segment 1 and segment 5 are your legal companies. Okay, I don't see any scenario why you want to use a different value set for your intercompany segment. You should be using the same value set.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so now we will try to get into a few more setups, and once that is done, we will create an AGIS transaction. And once you create an AGIS transaction, this is what the accounting entry which will be generated in the background. Okay, so we are done with the